I guess, tell people like who you are, how you describe yourself, who you're channeling today.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mieyoshi Ragernoir. This is my show, and it's titled Portal 27. I'm coming out because I'm somebody that's kind of really like, I'm a hermit personality, so really could stay in, but I feel so intensely and have a lot of sensations and color sensations. So this is like the expression of, although I'm a hermit, this is actually what's happening in my mind, in my body, in my blood and sensations. So, quick little intro about myself. I'm 26, I'm turning 27 this month, that's why it's titled Portal 27. I'm originally from Harlem, New York, but when I was a teenager, 14, 15, I moved to the West Bronx, so I necessarily say I have like both a mix of Harlem and the Bronx, like persona and like just symbolism and just style that also goes into the artwork. And I moved to Michigan in 2020 to go to school. I graduated last year in June, and decided it was my first full year living here now. Yeah.
Yay! I think we can start off with. I know we were talking about why Detroit, but yeah, why Detroit?
I said why Detroit. The first thing that popped up in my mind. I went to a school called Cranbrook. It wasn't that many black students there. The other black student that was there was Deja Milani, who was in the fiber department, who was from Detroit, left Detroit, rep Detroit. I was kind of feeling really, because it was during COVID time, so it wasn't much interaction between the campus. So the black students made like a group chat, and then we had a meeting, and that's where I first met Deja. And that day I was able to talk about like what my experience was, like the months when I didn't get to meet the small group of black students there, and I kind of was really sad and isolated, but I didn't want to go back to New York, and I expressed that to Deja. And she loves Detroit, so she was just like, girl, we gotta get you to Detroit, you gotta come to Detroit and come see Detroit. And I, like, because I wasn't there, I was like I'm just viewing it as a state. I'm not knowing that Detroit is a whole different experience from Michigan or Bloomfield Hills where I was at. I was just like, don't want to go to New York, but I'm not really feeling this Bloomfield Hills like stuff. It's feeling really like culture dead, very bland, but just decorated, but so bland, like it feels like a prop. Then that's when 2021, I spent my first summer in Detroit, and because it was such a short time, I couldn't get an apartment, so I was Airbnb hopping. I can't drive. I'm a New Yorker that can't drive, so I was biking around Detroit and just spent a lot of time alone, sometimes hanging out with Deja, and it was a beautiful experience. Yeah, it was 3 months of just like biking, meeting random artists, and it was love. And I was like, oh yeah, I like Detroit. So then when I officially graduated, I just remembered that summer, because it just was a summer. And then that's when I went back to Bloomfield Hills and just like lived on campus full time. But 2022, I was like, yeah, something about Detroit, and decided to get an apartment and stay.
Okay, so what do you think? What do you think of the city so far?
I like it. So I am a hermit, and I was on that feeling. But then last summer when I moved back, it was completely just like in work mode. So I got a job. I didn't really get to experience what I had my first summer, where it was just like biking, being around artists, just seeing the flowers. And then like honestly, there's a lot of abandoned homes and buildings in Detroit. But being from New York City, its buildings is all up and running. I really like that I get to see homes that have like vines and plants and flowers growing out of it, like something like seeing this old home that now has turned into like nature and took its course over in history. I really like those moments of just with biking, like in the morning. So after moving here, it's just been work mode. I officially quit my job right before Christmas in December 2022. So now this is like going into my 4th month. Now I'm kind of like, I guess, getting back into Detroit. Detroit, it was the winter, so now, yeah. It's feeling good, but it's just like, the winter was just like art and still kind of in hermit mode.
Yes, a Detroit winter is very interesting. It's like kind of one of those, it's very gray here, and you definitely, it puts you on your ass and it'll make you like, okay, I gotta sit and think for a while.
Yeah.
Just like ruminate on stuff, okay? So I think when you were talking about how West Bloomfield feels very proppy, right? I feel that about New York. I feel like it's very proppy, and it gives like, you have to come here and have a purpose. have to have some kind of function. So when you talk about riding around the city and seeing houses that are being reclaimed by nature, and then I think of like in New York how everything has a purpose and everything is doing something, even like the houses and the buildings that are super big. You're like it's 17 business in there. How I feel like that experience rings really through to me, and why I love Detroit so much, because it really seems like full authentic vibes.
Yeah, it was real.
It's a little too real here, but but yes, it's very real here. And now when you think about the realness that you're able to feel within this space and grow within this space, how are you starting to express that within your art space? Like you said, you created all of these works in the last couple of months. How has the new finding of yourself within a free building city like this influenced how you view your paintings, how you view your art practice?
Right now I have to think, because a lot of it, like with the feelings that I feel for like living in Detroit, a lot of it is so real, so it's very sensational. So I'm gonna take a moment to just like think on like to give it words. But the first thing I can think of is just like this newfound, just I would say it's kind of like a healing growing of just like being like living in Detroit, moving like the first 2021. Just that brief experience of a summer was very healing, and it allowed me to really like, I guess I've always been me, even though New York is very persona, I've still been a hermit there, so I've always been myself, and I also was hermit because I was so much of myself.
Yeah.
And New York, like especially with the art industry, I got a lot of people saying like, you're not supposed to act like that, you're not supposed to dress like that, kept trying to mute me. So because I was already introverted anyways, when I do come outside and I'm being like rejected or being like trying to be molded, I'm like, I'm going back in the house. So Detroit is like, I met people that seen me, and it was just like refreshing. Like I had a process on it where like it wasn't rejection. It was I've had a few experiences here of people immediately like saying, oh my gosh, you're so great, and then like make a side comment trying to give me like, let me tell you how you could tone yourself down a bit. But for the most part, I just get embraced. Like for the most part, I'm embraced for being me. And what you see here, like the reason why it's so colorful and the reason why you see this real expression is because nothing in me was suppressed during making these. As opposed to like my younger work, it was a lot of like, it's not as much joy if you look at the stuff that I made in college. And that's because like I was being myself, but I also had a lot of voices of just like trying to suppress and like what to be and all of it. And I wasn't being it, but I was feeling sad because like if you go through years of just being you, and everybody keeps saying that's not it, that's not it. I'm like, everybody's saying the same thing, you must be the problem. It's like,
To what you just said, I feel like as human beings sometimes we're in a space when we hear a lot of loud voices, we start to feel like that's the only voice that matters. So I commend you for being in the space of reclaiming your voice and reclaiming how not only you're choosing to express that voice authentically, but also being in a space where I'm not going to allow other people's opinions and how they feel about what I'm doing or how I'm expressing myself dictate how I express myself, right? And that brings me back to a conversation we were having earlier before we start this about Black joy and how you've been able to not only capture Black joy within your space, but you've been able to capture Black joy in a world that is very gray, in a world that is very strenuous to your excitement and your expression and your color and your use of color. Like we know Black girls were told you can't wear colorful hair because that's ghetto, or you can't wear, big hoops or gold or whatever because it brings upon an image that is not classe or very westernized, right? So how in your space, how have you been able to not only create, but create with this intentionality, whether consciously or subconsciously, of I'm going to capture little bits of Black joy so that when people look at it, they feel the warmth?
As I would say now is very much consciously and intentional. And I will say it started when I say that I was at Cranbrook in between 2020 to 2022. And when I was there, it was feeling very gray and feeling very bland and sad. I noticed with the first painting that I did, I painted a friend even painted Morgan smiling. I intentionally chose to paint him smiling because I had a moment where I'm looking through the pictures in my phone of my friend. When I was feeling sad, I would actually look at the people. I would intentionally say, "You're feeling sad, but let me remind you of the people that actually love you." And I would look at their pictures and I would get the sensation, and then that's when like I would paint it. And I don't really know how to describe, put words to the sensation of what happens when you are painting someone that you genuinely love and loves you. And then like also as a painter, I'm always learning, so having fun. So even though I've been doing it for a minute, I still don't know if I'm good. Like I don't go and say, "Oh yeah, I know this is gonna come out like a masterpiece." I don't have that mindset when I'm going into it. So I'm also having these really happy moments when I'm in this sad gray space, which is like the institution in Cranbrook, where I'm having this moment, I'm painting my sister, I'm painting my best friend, and then the likeness is coming out and I see the smile and then I'm smiling while painting it, and it's just all those sensations happening in the moment. So it's very intentional when I'm also thinking about how like you build a habit and then that's when it just becomes natural. So I also did it intentionally of just kind of like, I can't really keep track of doing like writing affirmations or saying it. So my affirmations are in making intentional art about like joy and about people that I love. And it's just like, now it's just like muscle memory. So even when I'm not painting or I'm just going through life and I experience really tough situations or interactions, I immediately I'm just like reminded, like, you don't realize the support you have, you don't realize the love you have, you don't realize the joy that you have. Like all this bullshit is coming your way, but it's still joy and love there. So like don't harbor on that, because I also spent so much in childhood harboring on that negative stuff, and it just left me gloomy. So yeah.
So what I'm hearing is like your paintings are almost like an affirmation of joy and love for yourself.
And the people.
Okay, we love like joy and painting. I think we were talking like one of my favorite portions of how you paint is the fact that I'm able to see texture in your paintings without actually like touching them and feeling them. I see softness. I see like when I look at the paintings in the back over there, I feel the furriness of the fur. I'm like, oh, I got a jacket just like that in my closet I can touch, you know? Or just being able to look at these earrings over here and see the rigidness of the earring. Are you intentionally trying to create texture within your pieces without creating texture?
I would say subconsciously it's a yes, because when I'm painting, I'm very much harboring the feeling when I'm painting of the fun of it, of the experience of it. Like I would say like a lot of painting for me is connecting with my inner child, because I remember it was the first thing that I said as a toddler I wanted to do. So when I say it's a yes and no, where I don't go in and be like, oh, this has to look fluffy or this has to look like this. I kind of just really get excited and just like, oh, I like furs because I like the feeling. And then that's when my brain checks out and it's just like color reaction in my hand, just doing a thing. Like we had a moment where before this, where you brought up the sleeves for that painting over there, and you saw my reaction. I didn't know that. Wait, I was like paused. We're like, oh, that is a piece of wood that does look like it has puffy and heavy sleeves.
Like it feels heavy.
And I made that, and I did not have that reaction or realization. So that's why it's a yes and no, because I kind of really check out. I guess it's kind of meditative. I go into a different mindset. So it's intentional. Is intentional subconsciously, but consciously I don't go into saying that to myself. But it's there.
You asked me my favorite piece. That piece over there is my favorite piece. It's just, it feels soft yet powerful. It feels like the cloth itself feels kind of like satin chiffon-y, kind of, you know, vibe. You know, I might have a robe like this. And it just gives me. This is almost like an accidental picture, kind of, right? And when I look at your paintings, and it looks like a snapshot of time, almost like you were able to capture So like with this painting right here, and I love this. I love Daryl's expression in this. The glasses, how everyone just looks so happy. It looks like y'all had your phone right here, and you feel
We
me?
did.
You know, so
It was
it's
not
just,
staged.
you know what I'm saying? So it's just like I feel like we're in moments with you when we're looking at your paintings, and it brings me back to you saying portal and naming the show portal. Do you feel as if you are creating portal pieces intentionally, even with how you have a lot of circles in your dimension, how you place your paintings? Is that like an intentional thing, or you feel like this is?
I would say portals found me, like, of it being portals. So I first started, like, the reason why I titled it Portal 27, it was after coming up with all, like, the concepts and sketches for it. And then that's when I was thinking, like, when I was coming up with the title, I was like, what was a recurring thing? And then that's when I was just, like, thinking about how I feel color sensations, and then, like, how I attracted, like, circles, halos. And I was just like, oh, what I'm coming out again. It's like, I'm always coming out of something. It's always a transition. And then, like, a lot of times when I do stare at people, I'll sometimes, like, I still don't know whether it's an actual thing or my eyes playing. I'll start seeing whether it's like light or energy. Some people literally look like they're radiating, like to me. So it's also having that moment where I'm just like trying to visually let my hand portray these sensations and just like these everyday interactions with people that like I'm seeing. And then that's when I'm just like, oh wow, have I been walking through portals? And like you got like even with portals of just like the mirrored floor, just like these people have been mirrored. So I would say portal wasn't intentional, but I noticed that there is portals and everything. So I would say the portals have been intentionally saying, hey, I'm here. But yeah,
paying attention now.
Yeah, I'm just now seeing it.
Okay, and going back to thought too, and I think one of the first things I said to you when I came in yesterday was like, dang, your painting's gay as hell. Like I think it's a beautiful thing to be a queer person, but I feel like and I also feel like your paintings are very expressive of that, but it doesn't seem like this is an intentional thing that you're doing. Like, I want the world to know that I am queer, but it's like, oh, I'm just, like, we were talking earlier, as a Black person, I feel we're looking for places and spaces where we're free to express ourselves in all, aspects of it, and like free to show our personalities and how we feel and how we dress. And queerness is one of the spaces that you're literally able to decide how you show up within that space. Do you think that in your queer identity is the safety you need for your Blackness to thrive, or do you feel as if you are having to have two spaces, like you're kind of separating for yourself? And I'll kind of go to ask the separation question.
I'm trying to. Can you reword the question?
Do you feel like in your paintings, do you feel like you are putting your queer foot forward first? Like, I'm a queer person and I want you to see this, or do you feel as if you are putting your Black foot forward first and I'm just unintentionally still showing?
I will say, I think, honestly, I say it's probably maybe Blackfoot first. And the queerness expression, although am queer, is kind of unintentional. Like the rainbows, like for me, like I told you earlier in the conversation before this, where it's just like, when I paint the rainbows, I was not thinking about pride flag, I wasn't thinking about that. But when someone comes up and asks and say, oh, is this to represent, I'm just like, that wasn't the intention when I was painting it, but I am queer, so it works as like, hey, it's positive for me, like, yeah. So I would probably say black foot forward, because going back to the schools that I went to, they were predominantly white spaces. And with being told to tone down, I am a figurative painter, so I also, like, a lot of times I got critique of just like, people were trying to say, make things more coded. They didn't like that I'm so direct about my things, but then like I also wasn't intentional about being direct. I'm like, this is just who I am. Like, this is my best friend. This is my sister. I know they're black, but I didn't know they were black. Like,
I feel that. Like,
yeah, so I say my black foot forward, because even I had a lot of moments where I had a year where I was mostly only using the Pan-African palette and most of my artworks, and that was very intentional. It was just like, I'm black in this bland space. Please stop telling me to stop letting you guys know. No, I'm gonna be extra cheesy. I'm gonna put the red, black, and green 100 times, and you're gonna be like, hey, you using that same palette for the new painting? I'm like, yes, I am.
You know, I think that something you just said when you were talking was really powerful. When you were talking about your sister, you said I didn't know they were black. I just, know they were my sisters, and this is what they look like. And that is a feeling that I often
17, when I was thinking about like, what college to go to. I was actually not looking at anything in colleges. The first thing that popped up was like, who are black painters? Basquiat popped up. Basquiat is more, he has figurative work, more abstract. I really liked and was a huge fan of Basquiat when I was a teenager, but obviously I can paint like Basquiat. So another painter that I also was looking at the time was Nicolene Thomas, who was a photographer, mixed media, collage artist, and Cohen Riley. So then when I just started, I guess, like practicing of just like how to express, first thing, the people around me was the first thing I did. I got excited of just like how I was portraying them, and that's when it just became a thing. It became a thing that stuck. So it was like the first person I remember drawing was my father, and then that's when like I got excited. There's just something to go show him and do. So it kind of just like was always there. It's just like I like seeing people. I don't like things. I love abstract art, but I don't like things being coded and hidden. I did forget the first part of the question.
I might have also. That's fine. I think I have another question. You're really direct. Why?
This is me.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if this is like too much TMI. It's not gonna be nasty too much, but too much TMI, where all of this color and vibration and energy. I've since the day I remember having feelings, whether it's like 2 years old, having like my first memory, I've always been like this big, excited, joyous bubble. I have a lot of experience where it's just like, even with my family, stop it. Why you so cheesy? Why you all hopping around? This is ADHD. Why you doing that all the time? So I went through phases. I'm grateful for childhood and middle school and all those awkward phases. I went through phases trying to imitate people and trying to act, because I kept being rejected. I couldn't sit with people, couldn't keep friends, I couldn't hang out with people. Kept trying to be anything other than the energy that was happening within, till it goes to depression, where it gets to like, man, nobody wants you, nobody accepts you, all emo, whereas just like all you have is yourself, but you go into the hermit mode. So then like in those lonely moments or private moments, I'm just me. When I did go back to college, so I guess like frequently being around people in college, I had went through all the phases through childhood. I didn't want to be nobody else. And then because I was so rejected, it kind of really allowed me to be free, because I was doing a lot of dancing alone, spending a lot of time alone. Like I would go, especially being in New York City, go out to eat alone, do everything with just me. And it kind of was like, I was happy. I was living with myself and my energy, and because people were so rejecting, I was thinking nobody was watching me or seeing me or observing. So I was just being my bold self, and people were drawn to that. So it's just like I went through phases trying to even suppress what other people try to suppress, and like, is there. Like I can't, someone said to me recently, because they noticed that I still kind of have, I guess like trauma or remnants of it, where I sometimes kind of suppress myself a bit. And she said to me, you cannot escape your colors, like stop it. And I really sat on me, was like, yeah, I can't escape myself, so that's why I'm so direct. I can't be nothing else.
That was good, right? That was like a snappity moment for sure. Wow, you can't escape the colors. I'm gonna ruminate on that for a bit, for sure. Wow, that was a really deep Cool. Do y'all have like any questions you want to ask?
I have a question. Earlier you mentioned that you were strictly using the Pan-African palette while you were in Cranbrook. Do you feel as if your artwork changes now that you're in a culture, in the Detroit culture, where you're able to express more of your blackness out loud in front of people and not just through your artwork?
I think it changes as in like I don't have a lot of times I'll say I love black people and love my blackness. So the first time I put Pan-African colors in, it was coming from a pure place. I did get critique where they were just like, stop it, like you're doing it too much. And then I had an emotional reaction like, oh, you know what? This entire year, like 365 days is gonna do this since you're saying that. Now being in Detroit, I still, is just blackness and black pride is so natural to me where I don't find myself making emotional reactions and things because I no longer, like it is emotional, but it's no longer emotional because somebody on the outside has something to say, so I'm just like, oh, let me show you what I'm gonna do with this because you said that. It's more just like, I'm me, this is gonna become me. And even when I find myself having interactions with people and they make a comment about something that's either in process or about a painting, I'll step away from my painting and I won't interact with it while I'm going through whatever my emotional stuff because I do not want to take, I guess, animus or whatever I'm bottling up. That has to be expressed and purged. It can't go onto the artwork because it got to be from that pure place. Yeah.
So this is a two-part question. Do you consider yourself like all of those categories, queer, black, American artists? Or would you, like, I remember when Gordon Parks passed away, he's a photographer, they were calling him an American artist, so all of those categories kind of melted away. That's my first question. My second question is, when did you decide to live out loud? When did you decide to be the queer black artist that you are?
The first question, I would say, I think I'm all of them. I wouldn't say American artist. I do notice, I do write, I will say this, I do write in my artist and I do put an emphasis on Black American. That's been something since I was a child. Because like growing up in Harlem isn't so Afrocentric like Detroit. It's like completely different. Kind of like, so growing up it was lots of black people. It's not like that now, but it was lots of black people all around that didn't love their blackness, and specifically being a descendant of enslaved people, like that was always shamed upon. So like I wasn't ashamed about it. Like I don't view my great-great-grandparents as like what they went through as like something that disgusts me and I try to hide from. So I do put an emphasis on saying Black American, like, you know, like from that, like that enslaved, like I am a descendant of a stolen woman. Like I like putting that emphasis, but I would say that I'm all of it. And can you repeat the second question?
The second question is, when did you decide to live out loud? So when did you decide to announce yourself from the world, and being that you are seen as a woman, but typically the stereotype is that you are like heterosexual, or you are you're just a black woman out here doing X, Y, and Z.
I say in between age 18 to 19, because I would just briefly say, I read an article online, because I was deeply depressed as a teenager, like really emo as a teenager, but I read something that said 28 days of gratitude, and it was just like a list online of just all these practices, but it was followed by an essay of why you should do this, and I read the essay, and the essay basically in summary said, you spend all these days saying like all the negatives and all the down, and like do this, and that really stuck to my teenage brain. Was just like, I have spent every day moping, sad, listening to these same songs on repeat and doing this. What does it hurt to write down 10 things I'm grateful for every morning? What does it do? So that's what I did, and I don't know, I guess you're also seeing a manifestation of that 18-year-old's psyche from just reading that online post. So I would say 18 and 19, like 28 days of gratitude, like intentionally saying, I'm gonna acknowledge 10 things every day, or I'm gonna be intentional about tasting food, and just like following these 28-day prompts. Yeah.
Yeah. That Oh, great questions.
So my question is on color and grayness. So when I relocated to the United States several decades ago, and I was in art school, I wasn't doing painting. One of the things that struck me about my fellow classmates was the amount of non-vibrant color in their work. And I found it very strange because, so there are all these art stalls, an abundance of art stalls, in the community. There's this access to all this, brilliant, high quality paint, and why isn't anyone using them? So do you think that the society as a whole is depressed? Especially
I can't speak for society, but I will say when I was actually in undergrad, a lot of times where I feel color and sensations, it was natural, and this was me doing in undergrad, I was doing painting, cups and whatever assignment in the live model that they have come for today. But all the professors would, even privately or out loud, say, wow, we are trying to get students to break away from painting in a value scale, like black and white, and then they had a hard time using color. I didn't really understand what that compliment meant, but then when I would go in the next year and I had a painting professor, they were like, oh, Professor such and such said that you're a natural colorist. Now that I'm older and I would reflect on that, I guess I can say it may be the hard thing, because even in art school, a lot of people wear black and dark, and they don't wear super colorful clothes, even though they're in art school. They kind of it's really 90s grunge aesthetic. They try to keep that, oh, I'm just sad. Kurt Cobain is cool, but literally just mimic that whole style back then, and I don't get it. So I guess maybe society
do you think that that's the result of a big general depression of American society, of the individuals in a large, because it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
The dress, and even the art and design students, there is this.
They're very much super clean and proper, black turtlenecks.
Well, it's good to be clean and proper.
No, clean. I'm saying clean and proper. As right now, I'm seeing somebody with cut off capris and all black, and I'm seeing them with black turtleneck, holding a cup of coffee. Because being in these design spaces, that's how they are, and then just sitting there. But then they're trying to make something really vibrant and trying to make something really colorful. But even that is still rigid and still refined, even if it is a neon green or a neon pink. That's what I'm just envisioning in my head since I've been in those art spaces.
Because if you look at something like the clothes people wear and buy, that's curated, and most manufacturing, the people that make all this stuff, they've got labs and research things, that, unless you work there, you're never clean. And I've always wondered what, the preponderance of grays and I've always wondered, does it have anything to do with the weather? But, it's not winter all year round. And, everything else, struck me as pretty subdued. And then it's probably a question that I've had for a good 30 years.
I think it's also a way of not pushing yourself to fail. As a person, I feel if you know that you're wearing black and gray every single day, you don't have to worry about how you look in color, because you know for sure how you look in black and gray. If you know that you paint in black and gray, you don't have to make the mistakes of using brown and getting somebody too dark or too light. So I think it's almost a safety in the lack of color that some people might feel. It's you go into a space this is really loud. And sometimes when you wear really loud people, because I think when as somebody I'm born in Nigeria, and my parents think I'm like the loudest, weirdest dresser in the entire
Your
world.
parents think
Yeah.
you're loud,
I think
and
I
your parents are Nigerian.
Yes.
Because, you know, I grew up in Nigeria
Yeah.
myself, so.
Yeah, no, they think I'm a very loud dresser, and they think that
Actually, you're not loud.
I'm not loud today.
Did they think that you're loud?
Yeah.
If you
I know, but I think that it comes from a space of not understanding. And when they say loud, they feel like the fact that I have tattoos, I wear grills, like I wear a different grill every day. I, have my hair is a different color. You're not a color, but the way that I choose to express myself loud is like it's absence of safety. So what they are afraid of is that when I walk into a space that people would judge me because they can't fit me into a box of like how I might show up. So I think that when I come to America, when I see a lot of people, that is what I feel from them. It's like it's easier for people to not make an impression of you or judge you if they don't know where to put you in the box. They can just say you're neutral. Like you're neutral, so I'm not gonna wonder if you do A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. You're neutral in the way that you dress, so I'm not gonna wonder if you're queer because you're a man wearing a pink shirt, or it's just this space of safety in the absence of color. Because I think that color is like a full expression. Like to wear color, to wear yellow, to wear bright is almost, people say it's calling attention to yourself. But I feel like when you choose to wear black, it removes all these gazing away from you, even though I feel like black is that one, but
Yeah, I love wearing black. I would always used to wear black, but I'm an artist. I love color. I love all the vibrance in the show. But I've always been told that black is safe, and I mean, black people were amazing, right? We're very colorful. But I heard that black as a color was safe because you do know that you won't be like how it looks. It's like a straight palette, but I appreciate seeing color in work because it is expressive. It is showing you and how you view it in variations, and I think the vibrancy of this show is important because we don't always see it.
Exactly. And even, and this is a question for you, Mieyoshi, is like, as we're talking about freedom and expression and loudness, do you think that your use of color is another way that you are choosing to express your freedom in spaces? Because we just had a very good conversation about the safety in the lack of color. And you are a black queer person and a woman. Those are three unsafe spaces. Do you think that the amount of color and the loudness of how you use color, do you think that is another way for you to steal some freedom?
Yeah, it definitely is freedom. I definitely do feel I say I feel free, but then definitely I feel safe. I feel safe because this is my freedom. The color is my freedom. Yeah.
Wow. Are you feeling in how you choose to express yourself? And we talked about earlier, not putting so much emotion, like negative. Well, I'm not necessarily say negative, but like so many deep, dark emotions into your paintings. Do you think that that's how you're able to keep your paintings very warm and inviting? Because I feel like I was talking to you earlier, like you have a halo in almost all your pieces. Do you think that that's a way of keeping them almost angelic and pure in a way too?
I don't know, because I will say it's everything you see in here is just so natural to me. I didn't realize it was warm and inviting until somebody told me they felt so warm and inviting by it. Because back to the hermit thing, all of these were created. I was alone with all these artworks for 2 months, just me seeing it. I didn't know that, not thinking about other people's view, I didn't know that it was warm and inviting. So I don't know. I'm glad that it comes out that way, but I don't know.
Now, you did mention that you had childhood memories that go back to 2 years old, which is, it's actually kind of rare. for most people. And so then that leads to the question for me is, when you were a 2-year-old, or even possibly a 1-year-old, but between the ages of say 1 and 3 and 4, there must have been lots of color. I mean, you're a relatively young person, so by the time you were growing up, there was a lot of manufactured objects that were colorful, as opposed to, say, somebody like me. So, do you think, or do you know, or do you recollect what objects or artifacts or things that could have been around you that were
So
colorful?
I remember to 2 years old, but it's more of like flashes. Like the first thing when I'm thinking about like my first memory ever is actually kind of scary. It's me in day school. It wasn't preschool. It was like a school that was a daycare. But being in the classroom, and right now I'm just thinking I'm just like hiding under the chair because I was scared. But it actually was, the room was blue. And I'm thinking another thing of my mom buying the little marker, pencil, and color set, and me just being so excited that it's colored and sorted. I'm having like flashing memories. Maybe I was probably 3 or 4. Early in the morning or in the evening, PBS having this person like do the rainbow and just play and do like this little art sample. So like color is coming to me, and just like flashes of just seeing things on TV. My mom bringing the markers and crayons. So my first sensation of me having in those memories excitement is the PBS and the Crayola and marker, the cheap marker kits and drawing sets. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So I think it kind of, I have a theory for what do you call it, as to why that can be. The other thing that I notice in your work is that it evokes, I don't know if you've seen the works of Congolese and Ghanaian street artists, especially. There are people in a lot of West African and Central African urban areas who create signage for businesses. Okay.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen. We briefly mentioned this after the artist talk at Gallery Camille. It was I haven't seen the Congolese or Ghanaian street art, but I've definitely seen a lot in like the Caribbean or like Jamaica of whether it's a store or barbershop, it being hand painted. I probably have like in my Pinterest or my old, I have a screenshot folder. I love that stuff. Especially even first time I visited Detroit, a lot of sign painting. I had to stop and take pictures of that. Sign painters, I like all that stuff. Even though that's just for businesses, I really like that. Something about that pulls me in.
Right. And so, what did your instructors think in undergrad and grad school?
And
If you made any paintings like that, that evokes that,
take the
that, and that
words.
we're not necessarily talking about color.
The first thing I'm thinking about, other than color, the first thing they said in undergrad when I first introduced words and like text in that style, they said, take it out. Literally, they said, take it out. I remember I have a painting that I did at Cranbrook. It's not here, but it's a painting where I have like a woman with like an afro, and it says Black Love and like all this radiated. They were so upset that I wrote Black Love on it, and it was representing like the spray paint going to the mall, like the airbrush background. They were just like, why is that there? It's so distracting and so uncomfortable. Repeatedly, they say it's distracting, stop it. Like, why do you have a sign? They're like, this is art. Why is it a sign there? So yeah.
And if it might interest you or surprise you, we actually got the same thing in undergrad school, in undergrad program in Nigeria. I mean, on the first day of school, literally, we were told, we're not going to teach you how to paint here. We're not here for that. If you want to learn how to paint, go for an apprenticeship with a sign writer and, call it good. Go for that. Go from there. And interestingly, many of those people actually had their grad degrees from the United States. So I'm wondering whether there is some. What did you think that the educational establishment still hangs on to a very elitist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much.
Even though, in a very strange way, there is this openness to what art is. I mean, it was my moving to the United States that actually opened my eyes as to what art could be and should be, other than just painting market scenes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You want to answer?
I was like, absolutely. I think
So I'm sure you'd say yes to that. You know, that's what
I think to be honest, I still don't have words for it in like processing because I did graduate last year, but I definitely do think, especially education, is very elitist. It's really gross. That's why I say like moving to Detroit has like the energy has been like surreal because those are spaces like they're supposed to be open art. I got in my portfolio, even with this energy, although I didn't have this portfolio, it was still the same energy, got accepted into those spaces. And then you get into those spaces are like calm down. So it's a weird kind of, and if you're not, which I'm still trying to grow how to be mentally strong, but if you're not mentally strong and grounded in who you are, a lot of people can really fall apart in those spaces. It's like, you invited me here, and then that's when you're telling me that I'm, like stop being you.
That leads to this. Sorry that my questions are very.
It's
So I
these
just
good
need to find
questions.
out how do you think this, if we want to call it a problem or issue, how do you think it might be addressed?
Through the people that are in there opening their mouths. Like, stop saying this is how we play the game. Stop saying this is how it's going. Speak up. It's the people in there speak up. And I was in those spaces. I had my own experience. I spoke up, and I felt like it was me or probably the 2-3 people that did speak up for me, but it's hundreds. Even like the school I went to, New York, thousands of students. It's like you got 3 people speaking their voice, and we're on a campus, in Cranbrook specifically, where hundreds of people. They're not listening to those 3 voices. It's powers and numbers. It's literally the people who are in those spaces who are moping around and saying, oh, this is sad, but then also in the same breath saying, this is how it is, this is how you gotta play the game. It's literally them not speaking. It's the people that's in the spaces, because I can't keep blaming board members and institutions and whatever when people go in there and they just let it be. And then when I speak up and say, hey, this is what I experienced, it's kind of like, it's kind of like try to like, oh, it's so sad that happened to you with no follow-up, no defense, no support. It's kind of just like in their head, a memory. And they're just focused on playing that game. Yeah.
Do you think that that's because the overall society itself is depressed?
It's good. It's good. Break your question. I think.
Okay, that's going to be my last.
Yes, society is
May I ask a separate question that's sort of related to the signage? Can you speak to your use of shine and juicy? And do you think that this is a Harlem and the Bronx thing? Because you see some people mimic it in other places. But could you speak to shine and juicy in your work?
I was like, that's such a compliment. I was like, shine and juice. I was like, is this always being part of like that's in there too? I will say, I do know a lot of times when I paint, specifically with black people, I say black people are lively. And I am thinking about specifically, like, I always have to mention the Bronx because Harlem currently now is very gentrified. So the energy the memories that I'm usually pulling from is like the 90s or me looking at before I was born, the 70s and 80s images that I pull from.
Oh, wow.
But still with that, the Bronx still hasn't been completely gentrified. And the area of the Bronx, when I go back to New York where I stay, it still very much still reminds me of younger Harlem and reminds me of what I see in those pictures. And it's just like, outside people are like, oh, what is this? This is abandoned, they don't have anything, but they still like, they are flashing, they still are shining, they're out in the middle of the night, and I'm thinking of just like, right now I'm just like, thinking of like walking from the train and then walking by a bunch of people and like they have their car doors open and they sit and they're chilling in the car, music, and they spent probably the whole day on that street, but they had fun and it's sparkling and it's just like the energy and just magic of just like walking through that block. So I will say, like, especially like with the sparkles and the earrings, I do think about the liveliness and the flashiness of old Harlem 90s and 80s, and then like current, just like the Bronx, the area of the Bronx is predominantly, it's still black and brown, predominantly Dominican and Puerto Rican, and that personality, it's beautiful. It's like they big and they gonna let you know, like flags hanging from the window, like I'm gonna let you know I'm here. So it definitely does come from that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? I like this small intimate group, so like we can definitely just vibe and talk. I really love hearing about why you paint the way that you paint, how you paint, and how unintentionally intentional you are with your practices as you usher into 27 and you get into the space of, okay, 27, oh my God, 27.
Yeah. It hit me this morning. I was just like, wait, yesterday was April 1st, you know what that means? I was like,
kid you not, as being like 3 months into 27, yo, best time of my life. I kid you not, 26
I'm
is
terrified. I'm not even 20, I'm 27.
No, 26
I'm
is
terrified.
2016. 26 is 2016.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm still 26.
Like, it was real intense. A little bit of sharing. 26, almost got evicted, got fired for the first time ever. Lost almost 40K. Lost my business. Like, crazy shit.
Yeah.
27, I've touched 100K.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's real.
Yeah.
As you come into like it's a full quarter moment, 27 is about to
Okay,
be
so I'm really coming out. Okay, I'm
Yes,
glad I
like,
manifested that for myself. Yes.
This should be like an understanding of where you're about to get into.
Yeah.
Because 27, I feel like is this time of not necessarily finding yourself, but starting to know why you are yourself, why you show up the way that you show up, because then it allows you to go into spaces and command the room how you want to command the room. Because I think a lot of our life, and allow me to postulate, is a lot of people telling us this is how we're supposed to show up in spaces. And a lot of being Black, queer, and a woman is people saying this is what it looks like to be Black, queer, and a woman, right? What is a thought? What is a guiding principle? What is something that you're like, I want to keep this as I'm going to 27, but 26 taught me this?
A big thing that resonates is like what I've learned over and over is like trust yourself, like trust your sensations, trust your feelings. Because I would say I have been 26 where I feel things, I like just basically I'm very intuitive, and then that's when I immediately like internally gaslight myself or push myself to like go against what I'm actually feeling, and then that's when I do myself a disservice. So kind of like really, no matter how intense or bubbly it feels, like always trust and honor yourself. Trust your intuition, believe it, whatever goes through, like trust yourself and honor yourself. That is what 27 I went on, like harbor on. And like basically be confident in who I am, like 100%, like live it, and don't second guess, don't try to, I don't know, suppress myself, because the world gonna try to do it, so might as well keep a strong foundation here.
Okay, I love that. How are you choosing, as you're going this again, how answer 27 question, how are you choosing to remain soft and malleable, so being able to be like movementable with things that happen, and how are you choosing to remain who you are?
Honestly, I say I got into the practice now of just like making me time. I don't know if you want to call it meditation, but definitely making me time. Because when I like, a lot of times I'll do myself, what's it saying? I say disservice when I'm like, a lot of things are going on, and I'll be like, oh, this gotta get handled, this business gotta get handled. I don't got time to be sitting in a corner for 30 minutes breathing and whatever and doing all that inhale, exhale. That is very serious. Do it. It's kind of like Erykah Badu with the sauna. I don't have access to the sauna, but 100% always make time for yourself, like literally. So that's how I would stay soft. Just like, I say this to myself a lot in my head, like check your energy. And for me time is like checking my energy. Like even if I'm feeling like hot or whatever, I always gotta like check your energy. So literally making me time and like checking in with my energy all the time.
When people talk about, or when they teach about Mieyoshi in schools, and they say,
I'm like, where are they?
look,
Where are they? What?
Manifestation.
No, when I said I got big confidence, yes they are. Yup, they are.
when they
are.
talk about this portion of your life, what is the lesson header?
People didn't see this, but they would say like she was somebody who cried a lot, was very emotional, but because she was stubborn and stuck to everything that you see to even get you to even talk about this, is because she was stubborn and stuck to what she felt. Like she stayed true to herself. Even when my inner voice be trying to like be on my like going against me, is like I still was like, shut up.
Okay. I think as we like wrap this up, like one of the things that I'm thinking and constantly like reminding myself is when I first met you is coming to Morgan's room to help her with her.
Oh my god.
I only remember because I was so tired, I was so drunk, and I came in the room and the first thing I told Morgan was like, yo, she literally is radiating. It's crazy.
Oh wow.
Because you were just like, you were on the ground and you were placing the stuff in there, and Morgan was Morgan, and I'm just like, yo, this person right here is fire. Like, I don't jail with just everybody really intentionally. And I think that's something that I really enjoy about you as a person is not only do you come into spaces and completely brighten up a space, but you're willing to stop and learn a space before you add to it. And that is not only a skill that a lot of people do not have, but it is a very underrated trait, right? And my final question for you is, how does it feel? I'm gonna borrow this from Lisa.
Oh my god, I know what you're
You
gonna say.
already know where you're going with this. How does it feel waking up every day and knowing you that girl?
Oh my god.
How does it feel to know that we're in a gallery space in Detroit where you're not from, talking about your art, looking at your paintings with red stickers on them, and how does it feel to wake up every morning and be like, damn, these motherfuckers.
Oh my god.
Okay, so how does that feel? Like, let's try
It's literally, I would say like how it feels like even me just thinking about like the morning today. It feels like it's me in this body, but it feels like it's beautiful. But it feels like every day waking up is my higher self saying like right now when you said that, it's like I hear a voice in my head and be like, we be trying to tell her.
Okay.
So it's literally it's like I don't wake up just like I'm that girl. It's literally just like, and it's just like, even though it's not supposed to like, get up, just wash your face, let me tell you how great, let me tell you you are loved today if you do not know it. It's just like having that, having duality. But it feels soft. I would say, it feels very soft.
I love that, soft. Okay, you're soft.
Nurturing that, I'm nurturing that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I am super duper honored that you allowed me to be in this space. I slid in.
I'm grateful for even this conversation.
Okay, because I was like, yo, I want to talk to you about your art because I am obsessed. I have a literally obsession with you. I feel like you are so expressive, so authentic, and so yourself. And I see you in your paintings, and we haven't had that much time to have like a one-on-one, but I feel like when I look at your paintings, I can tell who you are as a person. And you are warm, you're light, you're big, you're bold, you're colorful, you know, you take up space. And I just want to honor that space that you're in right now and just say, happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
You know, like you should sing Mieyoshi happy
No.
She will fall out.
I'm ready.
But happy almost birthday. As you usher into 27, this is going to be a year for more happiness, more laughter, more reasons to open bottles and
I receive
you
it.
feel me? And not look at your bank account before you make a purchase. You feel me?
Just go.
Let's go with it. You know, people will sing your names in places that you have not been to and usher you in when you get into those spaces. As you walk into a room, the room gets silent.
I was just like,
you know,
thank you.
Honestly,
Thank you.
This is one of my favorite portions of being around space with Black women, getting to honor you. And I'm super, super thankful you were able to do this. So yeah, thank you all for coming and sharing an hour with us and talking.
I was like, thank you, Erada, for connecting. Thank you guys for your questions. This has been amazing questions. I'm like really happy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So great.